Hey guys, Mike the Caveman Kuhn here again from Paleo Primal Long Island and MikeTheCaveman.com. And for today's question comes from my good friend Katie, and she had a question regarding the difference between paleo and keto. Alright, I get that question a lot, and I'm going to expand on it a little bit and talk about the difference between different diet protocols and why someone wanted to follow one or the other, or a combination thereof. Alright? When it comes to diets and everything, I don't like labels, alright? I know I'm the Paleo Primal Long Island guy, but the thing is, I like templates, alright? A template, a framework, is a much better jumping off point because each of you is your own unique little snowflake, alright? So when it comes to paleo, the key focus is on avoiding things that were not ancestrally eaten, okay? So I prefer ancestral, but as a strict paleo approach, you're avoiding the grains, legumes, and dairy. And then obviously all modern processed things, okay? So refined flours, refined sugars, we're avoiding processed oils, seed oils. We've talked a lot about why all those are detrimental. Jumping off from there, you get to something called primal. All right, primal was popularized by Mark Sisson, and his whole concept is basically take that paleo framework, and if you tolerate dairy, then you can add in some high-fat, organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised dairy. Okay, so particularly Northern Europeans can do pretty well on that dairy. Now, from there, what is keto? Well, keto, of course, is short for ketogenic diet and deals with getting into nutritional ketosis. Now, ketosis is a much maligned and much misunderstood concept in the health and nutrition field. If you go through medical school, all right, what happens is you really don't spend much time on nutrition. You may get one class, you may get a seminar, but the fact of the matter is doctors are not nutritionists. Doctors don't have the strongest grasp on nutrition. It's just not part of their training. Now, if a doctor goes out and actually learns more about nutrition, great. But what a doctor is, at best, depending on their specialty, they are experts at physiology, how the body works, but not how all the fuels that come into it interact, all right? That is a key distinction. They are excellent as mechanics. They can probably figure out why something broke, but they're not necessarily the guy to tell you what to put in the car in the first place, alright? They are not the car's engineers. They're more like a mechanic, alright? They know what to do once the car has already broken down. I'd rather deal with the car not breaking down in the first place. Preventative maintenance, alright? So talking about different diets and everything, that ketogenic diet, it was originally developed for epilepsy. Since the days of Hippocrates, it was known that fasting was a way of eliminating seizures, okay? We weren't really sure why then. They couldn't really figure out how it happened. Today we know that there's a metabolic shift, and the biggest difference is that insulin production is turned down, blood sugar gets regulated, and we start to produce ketones. Now, ketones are an alternative fuel source, okay? Our brain, our heart, our muscles, they actually work slightly better on ketones overall, all right? That being said, that insulin we talked about, insulin goes and turns down the production of ketones. It's really hard to get into a true ketosis while having those carbohydrates. The purpose of it, though, is to mimic the effects of fasting without the unfortunate consequence of fasting for too long, death. So, that being said, when it comes to ketosis, it is awesome for a number of factors, okay? It's awesome for neurodegenerative diseases, all right? We're talking Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. It's awesome for cancer. It's awesome for weight loss as an initiation step, all right? That's where the whole Atkins idea came in, although Atkins' idea was a little bit higher on the protein end than a true ketogenic diet. But when most people think of keto, they think of Atkins, slob on the fat, slob on the protein. But a true ketogenic diet does not necessarily have insane amounts of protein. It has adequate protein. So it'd be better characterized as a high fat, low to moderate protein, and low carbohydrate. Alright? Now, that's not necessarily for everyone. Alright? Those have therapeutic implications. Paleo, in and of itself, is an excellent idea because it really focuses on eating real foods that we have an evolutionary or ancestral exposure to. If you happen to be Northern European, primal comes in great. And then, when we talk about the ketosis, if we're talking about therapeutic needs, okay, you have that cancer, you have insulin dysregulation, so whether it's diabetes or it's PCOS or it's something along those lines, all right, if you have a neurodegenerative issue, okay? If we're talking about Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all of those, MS, and ALS, all those things. Those are great times to start playing around with ketosis and, the ketone production. Other times, there are athletes who like to become fat adapted. That's particularly great for endurance athletes because they're going for long times. After a while, their body's going to run out of carbohydrate. There's no way to do it. That's why long-distance runners and marathoners and triathletes, they'll be sucking down those sugar capsules or those sugar gels, all right? The key is becoming fat adapted can create a lot of other side benefits, all right? So when it comes to what to eat, thing is, you are unique, all right? You are you. You've had different exposures than everybody else. Even if you have a twin, you still have different exposures, all right? Maybe one of you got a cold and got antibiotics, and the other one didn't. And you didn't get the antibiotics, and because of that, your gut flora is different, okay? Even though your genes are the same, your gut flora is different, so you're going to express things in different ways. Every one of us has our own exposures, and we all won the genetic lotto differently, and we all have different microflora, all right? That being said, there are overarching things that everybody should be doing, all right? You should all be eating real foods, particularly vegetables. Ideally, grass-fed, pasture-raised, organic animals, wild-caught fish, the occasional fruits, occasional nuts and seeds, all right? And then other things as you tolerate them, okay? So, dairy. If you tolerate it, great, pick a good source. If you want to do grains, properly prepare them, soak, sprout, and ferment them, all right? Go with the ones that have less of an anti-nutrient load, all right? So, white rice. Crazy, I know. Even though it doesn't have as many of the nutrients, it has none of the anti-nutrients either. It's basically starch. And when we're talking about starches, a good way of preparing them is by cooking them and cooling them, and you create something called resistant starch. And that can help with refeeding your gut flora, all right? Now, if you have digestive issues already, those might not be the way to go because you might have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or just a general gut dysbiosis. As such, you're feeding the bad ones. So, I know we're circling around a bunch. The idea is, eat the real foods, all right? Depending on what you are presenting with, depends on what we need to tweak from there, okay? So, if you have hormonal dysregulation, particularly on the insulin end, then ketosis is an option. If you don't tolerate dairy, well, don't do dairy. If you don't tolerate grains, don't do grains, okay? There are benefits to pretty much anything you can think of when it comes to dietary protocols, all right? It's just a matter of doing it right. If you insist on not eating meat, if you go the vegetarian or vegan route, well, you'd be better off probably going the raw vegan route and then supplementing in the necessary missing nutrients, all right? Because you're eliminating all the garbage. You're eliminating all the potential issues, all the anti-nutrient load. So I know I've been jumping around a whole bunch here, but the biggest takeaway is you need to figure out what works for you. Now, I've talked about it before, but I have a pyramid. No, I'm not in the Illuminati, but I have a pyramid when it comes to what you should be eating, all right? That paleo-primal idea, my overarching thought, the ancestral approach is a template, it's a framework. Look at what we ate, particularly your particular ancestors. What do we eat? And build from there. Those give you an idea of what's probably going to be okay for you and what's not. Then look at the science. What do we know now? Having looked at things, what does it say based on what is good and what is bad, all right? We can find out new things every day. And it evolves, just like we did. It evolves every day. The top of that pyramid is N=1 experimentation. For those of you with a statistics background, N, of course, is population, 1 being you. So, experiment, play around with it, work with somebody who's knowledgeable. Whether it's me or not, doesn't matter. Find someone who you trust, who can work with you, and work with it from there, okay? Find out what your needs are and build around that. Eat the real food, look at what the science says to both health, quote unquote, and your condition, and then build it from there with your own experimentation. And that's all I gotta say about that. That being said, guys, I hope you like this video. You know what to do, like and subscribe below. You can share it with your friends. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mike the Caveman, on Facebook at Paleo Primal Long Island, and of course over on MikeTheCaveman.com. That being said, guys, it's gorgeous out. It's starting to turn into a beautiful day. So I'll see you next time.